Good afternoon, everyone. How's the Grad Expo going for you? Is it pretty good? Yeah, I'm hearing some nods. So yeah, for those of you who are live stream, thanks for joining us. We've had both on-campus attendees to our annual Graduate Expo here at the new school, and we're also live streaming our events and getting questions from the audience as well on live stream as well as here on campus. My name is Merida Escandon Gasbarro. I'm the Director of Admission. I'm a longtime seasoned admission professional. I absolutely love working with graduate students. I'm a former graduate student myself. I'm also an alumna of the new school, so it is with great pride that I welcome you to the Admission and Financial Aid Workshop. You've heard from current students, from faculty, you've heard from alumni, you've met our staff, but for this hour, we're going to concentrate on the nuts and bolts of admission and financial aid. My name again is Merida Escandon Gasbarro, the Director of Admission. I'm also joined by my colleagues in admission and financial aid, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. All right, and then we'll get started.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Courtney Malenius, and I'm the Associate Director of Graduate Admissions, and I work primarily with the PARSONS School of Design. So I'll be jumping into the presentation in a little bit to go through some of the nitty-gritties of the PARSONS specific application details and portfolio requirements. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, and my name is Clint Osterholz. I'm an Assistant Director of Financial Aid here at the new school, and my primary focus is loans.
Hello, my name is Leslie King. I'm an Associate Director for Financial Aid, primarily in undergraduate financial aid. I also am the manager at the Welcome Center.
Great. Well, we're here to demystify that application process, all right, for graduate admission. I know you've done the undergrad. It's been a while since you took those SATs. You're working with a high school counselor. We're going to put those days behind you. We're now focused on helping you put together as strong an application as you possibly can. We'll share a lot of tips with you about the application process, statement of purpose, the letters of recommendation. Our graduate programs do have slightly variations in terms of what they anticipate and expect, or faculty selection committees expect in the application. So it's important that you certainly review and ask questions from us in admissions, but we're certainly going to share some tips for you to make the process as easy and as less anxiety-ridden as it possibly can. So we are going to talk about programs, we'll talk about admission procedures, and then we'll turn it over to our colleagues to talk about scholarships and financial aid. All right? Okay. I'm the Director of Admission for the programs in the division called the New School for Public Engagement here at the new school. Those include our programs in the School of Media Studies, all right, so Media Management, Media Studies, the MA, our Milano School programs. I also work with our TESOL and MFA in Creative Writing programs. I also work closely with our colleagues in the New School for Social Research admission staff. And for those of you who are interested in the Parsons, as Courtney mentioned, she will be talking about Parsons. If you're interested in Manus, or the School of Drama, please, we'll give you our cards and we'll answer and we'll direct you to the right person. But we'll be focusing our presentation mostly on our programs in Parsons, the New School for Social Research, and the New School for Public Engagement. So the New School for Social Research. Our programs in anthropology, economics, philosophy, politics, psychology, sociology, historical studies, liberal studies, and we're very pleased to also introduce this starting for the fall semester, the certificate in harm reduction therapy, and then the certificate in gender and sexuality. In the New School for Public Engagement, these are the programs that we offer. All right, in media studies, we have a media studies MA and media management, creative writing, documentary studies, teaching English to speakers of other languages, the environmental policy, international affairs, nonprofit management, organizational change. There's a master's in urban policy. We do have a PhD in public and urban policy, and then three postmaster certificates in leadership and change, organization development, and sustainability strategies. So let me just quickly, in terms of talk point by point of our application requirements for NSSR and NSPE that are similar. Right? Certainly in terms of deadlines, it is very important that you keep focused on deadlines, particularly for priority deadlines. Many of our programs have priority deadlines, both for fall and for spring. All right. There is the TESOL program that does have application deadline for summer, and there'll be a slide with more dates in terms of deadlines. But please keep in mind priority deadlines for scholarship considerations as well as for admissions. We'll talk about the online application, what you need to provide in terms of transcripts. The one piece that is your voice can be for New School for Social Research, a 2-part essay, and I'll talk about that, or a statement of purpose. For many of the programs in the New School for Public Engagement, all you're required to provide is a single statement of purpose. We'll discuss resume, recommendations. 2 are required. And then, of course, for some of the specific programs where academic writing samples are either highly encouraged or required, and then for some of them, they're optional, the portfolio and the test scores. Right. Our online application, very accessible. Right. You're able to start and stop the application at your own pace, keeping in mind the priority deadlines. All right. You can upload materials, you can work on your statement of purpose and document, and then upload it into the online application, save it, then go back, think about those recommenders. Those pieces are certainly accommodate your schedule, again, keeping in mind the deadlines. All right. All the materials for your benefit can be submitted online. So that includes the transcripts, which we'll talk a little bit more about. Unofficial transcripts are uploaded at the time of application. You're also able to upload your resumes, and your recommenders can also submit their recommendations through our online application. So basically, by the time you are ready to submit an application, you're actually going to submit to us in the Office of Admission a very complete document of why you're interested in our programs, why you're applying to our programs. Your resume will be there, and then those unofficial transcripts. We do want unofficial transcripts from all the undergraduate colleges and universities that you have attended. All right. Please include those that you may have done a study abroad. All right. If you did a semester or 2 semesters at a community college, we do want to see unofficial transcripts from those. So if you've got the old official transcripts in your drawers, you could certainly upload those front and back, make a scanned copy, and have those uploaded. All right. If you are in this audience and you happen to be a readmit or someone who's thinking of coming in as a visiting student or as a non-degree, which means you're not going to matriculate yet, come see me and I'll answer your questions about what type of information we're going to require. A little bit about the transcripts. The unofficial transcripts or marks are uploaded. Okay. For marks, for those of you who are international students, you may not get an actual transcript that indicates all, in one single page. You may have a number of marks and courses for all your semesters. That's probably what you may get from, from your university that happens to be international. Just front and back copy those, send that to us as part of the application. You do not have to have them evaluated by any of the NACES-approved agencies if you're not seeking transferable credit from a previous graduate experience that you may have had. All right, so again, it is making the process of submitting transcripts in your application as easy as possible. All right. Official sealed copies of transcripts are only required if you're accepted. This is where we talk about the standardized tests, those dreaded standardized tests. All right. For those of you who are applying to any of the programs in the New School for Public Engagement, the School of Media Studies, they're not required. They are only required for the New School for Social Research. All right. And they're only required if you graduated in 2009 or later. All right, we do get questions, though, from individuals who are applying to the New School for Social Research who may have a little bit more than 5 years who still want to submit GREs. And what I generally suggest to them is if there's a reason or a compelling reason for you to do that, perhaps your undergraduate career wasn't as stellar as you'd like, but you want to certainly demonstrate that through standardized tests, that you've got the quantitative ability, the reasoning ability, all those abilities that are, certainly measured by the GREs, you can submit those. If you're a career changer and applying to any of the programs in the New School for Social Research, I would encourage you to do that. And of course, if you want to flaunt them because you're just so great on them, you can include those as well for New School for Social Research. For the New School for Public Engagement, again, they're not required. The PhD in public and urban policy does encourage them. In terms of our master's programs, really the focus from our selection committee are the other pieces, the statement of purpose, the letters of recommendation, your resume. For those of you who are international students, all right, there is a requirement to provide proof of English proficiency. You'll note that there are exceptions, and they're listed on the slide and also on our applications. The minimum score for our New School for Social Research and NSPE programs is 100. We do also accept 2 other tests. There is the IELTS test or the Pearson's PTE, and you'll note the minimum scores also on the slide. All right, and then if you happen to meet an exception, those are 2. If you happen to have earned your 4-year degree in the U.S., in a college university here in the United States, you are exempt from providing the TOEFL. And then there is a listing of the countries where citizens from those countries whose first language is English are also exempted from providing TOEFL scores, or proof of English proficiency is more appropriate. So this is the part where I find that I get a lot of questions from students. It's the one that gets perhaps a procrastination set in trying to figure out what do you tell the selection committee. All right, for the New School for NSPE, I'll focus on that, and then I'll talk a little bit of New School for Social Research. For NSPE, it's really, the programs are looking for reasons to admit you, to consider you. They really want to know what your academic interests are, those transferable qualities that you're bringing with you. You've been, out in the workforce for a number of years, or you're a recent graduate. This is where you highlight that. Should not be your narrative of your resume, but it needs to certainly provide a perspective in terms of why you are now ready for graduate school, why this particular program. What is our ability to help you reach your goals? How are we going to help you do that? And what are those goals? What are your educational and career goals? For the New School for Social Research, it is a 2-part essay. All right, they do ask for an autobiographical statement as well as an academic interest paper. Right, and there's similarities. So those of you who, maybe in terms of looking at the statement of purpose for any of the programs in the School of Media Studies or Milano, creative writing, or TESOL, look at it in terms of the statement of purpose, perhaps 20% of your essay about you, your autobiographical piece, and then the rest of it should be about your educational, professional, academic interest. For NSSR, it's set in this way where you have actually 2 essays to submit. Some of our programs do require academic writing samples. They are required for the New School for Social Research. If you are applying to the graduate program in International Affairs, and if you're applying to the Milano PhD in Public and Urban Policy, we strongly recommend it for those of you who are applying to the MA in Media Studies as well, and then it is optional for the others. The guidelines vary, so please look at the application instructions specifically, but they're usually, 8 to 20 pages. And for PhDs, for any of you who are applying to our programs that do have PhDs, they're more substantial for that. This is, again, another sample, just like your statement of purpose, of your writing. So please make sure it is cited appropriately and it is free of mechanical and grammatical errors. It is helpful to make sure that the academic writing piece reflects your interests and your critical analyses of issues that are of interest to you within the discipline. So if you are interested in international affairs, I do encourage you to provide a paper that would be one that you've written for social sciences, one of your social science courses. If it's been a while since you pulled together an academic writing sample, my suggestion is take a look, review 3 or 4 scholarly research articles in the topic that interests you and critique that, and then cite that appropriately within this academic writing sample and submit that. Our programs that, instead of requiring an academic writing sample, require a portfolio are those in the documentary, studies, and creative writing. And there's specific information in terms of what to submit for each one of the genres in creative writing. Okay, and then for documentary studies, the portfolio includes a self-portrait video, an additional creative sample, and then your proposed documentary project. Moving along, the resume and curriculum vitae, or your CV, it's a standard business resume, but don't force it to be within 1 page. That's not what we're looking for, certainly, that you keep it within a page. It can be longer. Please include, certainly, any activities that are relevant to your, to your desire to apply for graduate study. That can include extracurricular activities, that can include volunteer experiences if you are thinking of as you're considering being a career changer. You're encouraged to include links to any projects or work that you've completed and include that on your resume. Please do not include your photograph on this resume. It's not required. It's actually not appropriate. Just leave that off. And then include, please, updated information. I know you would put that on your application, but it also appears in terms of your resume. It's helpful for our faculty readers to have that information also as they're looking through your resume. Our programs require 2 recommendations. And again, this is in one area where I'd say it depends when I get asked, so who do I need to ask a recommender? Ideally, this is the rule of thumb that I tell students for the NSSR and NSPE. If you're considering an academic program, the NSSR programs, I highly encourage you to submit 2 academic references. All right? If you're a recent graduate, you just graduated from college or university, 2 academic recommendations are appropriate. If you've been out in the workforce for a while, all right, I suggest optimally, and it's been 2 or 3 years, 1 academic, 1 professional recommendation. And again, if you've been out in the workforce for a good number of years, then 2 solid professional recommendations. Again, what we want to see there in our selection committees are those transferable skills. Do you work well with others? Are you someone who takes initiative? Those are transferable skills. What's your work ethic? We want that to come through in terms of your recommendations. And these individuals are serving as advocates for you. Please make sure you speak to your recommender before you put his or her email on the application, and make sure they are aware that we're going to send them a note that says, hi, Betty's just asked for a recommendation, and she has said that you will provide one. Recommenders can opt to either submit their recommendation through the online application process or otherwise. So just make sure you let us know whether they're going to mail them in or not submit them electronically. Now we get to deadlines for NSPE. We are accepting applications for this spring, all right, for our master's programs and Masters of Arts and Masters of Science. Our creative writing program only accepts in the fall. And so the dates here are for the fall application deadline. And these are priority deadlines. That means that you are considered priority for admission and for scholarships. Our scholarships are merit-based. Tuition percentages cover a percentage of tuition. And students will know if they are awarded scholarships at the time of admission. So when we send out those letters, we do have electronic letter communication as well as a hard copy. And that's where information about scholarships consideration is provided for our applicants and our admitted students. All right. I'm going to hand this over now to Courtney to talk about Parsons and their application process. All right, Courtney.
Well, thank you, Merida. And again, I'm Courtney, and I work primarily with the Parsons School for Design program. So the application requirements are pretty similar, but there are some differences, most notably in the portfolio requirements. So we'll get to those. But just in case you're just joining us, or if you're joining us from the live stream, Parsons offers on the graduate level close to 20 master's degree programs currently, and they are grouped thematically in these 5 different schools within Parsons. So we have the School of Constructed Environments, the School of Fashion, the School of Art and Design History and Theory, the School of Art, Media, and Technology, and the School of Design Strategies. So this is the current list of all the Parsons graduate programs that we have, beginning with the Master of Architecture program, the Graduate Certificate in Business of Design, which is a 1-year online or on-campus graduate certificate. We have a brand new program, a Master of Science in Data Visualization, which will begin accepting students beginning in the fall of 2015. The MA in Design Studies, the MFA in Design and Technology, the MS in Design and Urban Ecologies, the dual degree Master of Architecture and MFA Lighting Design program, the History of Design and Curatorial Studies, Fashion Design and Society MFA, similarly Fashion Studies MA. The difference between the two, as we often get questions about this, the Fashion Design and Society program focuses on clothing construction, whereas the MA in Fashion Studies is more about fashion scholarship or fashion research. Moving on, we have an MFA in Fine Arts, an MFA, a brand new MFA in Industrial Design, which is set to launch in fall of 2015. A double major that combines the interior design and lighting design curriculum, as well as standalone interior design and standalone lighting design, an MFA in photography, an MS in strategic design and management, theories of urban practice, MA, and last but not least, transdisciplinary design. I'd also like to mention that today's presentation in the Grad Expo, of course, really focused on our New York City programs, but last year, Parsons launched a branch campus in Paris, and if students were interested in spending their entire 2-year graduate degree experience in Paris, who are interested primarily in the 2 programs you see here on the slide, the MA in History of Design and Curatorial Studies, as well as the MFA Design and Technology programs, there will be a place on the application where you actually designate if you're applying to the New York City campus or to the Paris campus for those programs. And students based here in New York City have the opportunity to do a study abroad or exchange semester in Paris if they were interested. And we also have a separate Paris admissions team that can answer some additional questions about the Paris campus, and you can contact them with this information. Okay, so as Merida went through the application requirements for the new school for public engagement and the new school for social research, the Parsons application requirements are very, very similar. You'll do an online application. With your online application, you're going to scan copies of your undergraduate transcripts or any graduate level degree work you may have completed as well, and attach them to the online application. Again, for international students, we just want to make sure that if your transcript is not written in English, that you have it accompanied by a certified English translation so that our faculty can understand your transcripts. A resume will be uploaded with the Parsons application, as well as the statement of interest and intentions, which, as Merida explained, is basically a 2 to 3 page essay where you make the case for why you're applying to the program you've selected, why the program is a good match for your educational goals, and why you in turn are a good match for what the program offers. Test scores, as Merida said, if you're an international student, you'll have to show proof of English mastery by submitting either a TOEFL, an IELTS, or a PTE score result. For Parsons, the TOEFL minimum is a 92 or better. On the IELTS, it's a 7.0 or better. And on the Pearson Test of English, it's a 63 or better. Now, the GRE is only required for a handful of Parsons programs. Those programs include our Master of Architecture, MFA Lighting Design, and MFA Interior Design. And it's only required for native English speakers applying to those programs. So you would have to send us your GRE scores electronically. For both TOEFL and GRE, you can send your test scores using our school code, which is 2638. If you're taking the IELTS or the PTE exam, you'll have to send those scores through the post. Next, letters of recommendation. Parsons requires 2. Portfolio, I'm going to address on the next slide. If you're applying to an MA program at Parsons, so this would be design studies, fashion studies, or the history of design and curatorial studies programs, we would encourage you to include an academic writing sample that essentially discusses a topic of relevance for those programs. It is optional, but it is strongly encouraged. And then last but not least, some of the Parsons faculty may reach out to you to conduct an interview after they've read your application. Not all programs require interviews, but it's a good thing to be checking your email account regularly between the months of January and February in case someone is trying to tap you for either an in-person, phone, or Skype interview. So for the portfolio requirements, if you're applying to our Master of Architecture, our MFA Lighting Design, MFA Interior Design, any of the dual degree or double major combinations within those schools, the new MFA Industrial Design program, Design and Technology, Design and Urban Ecologies, Fashion Design and Society, Fine Arts, Transdisciplinary Design, Photography, or Data Visualization. You'll be uploading your portfolios using a website called SlideRoom. So this is all in the application instructions, but essentially you go to parsonsgrad.slideroom.com. You'll be uploading a series of items into SlideRoom. And I say items instead of visuals because you may choose to submit visual items in your portfolio, but you may also choose to submit a PDF that has a combination of visuals and writing. You may choose to submit a film or sound file. It's a very multimedia-friendly software so that if you want to showcase different areas within your portfolio, you have the freedom and flexibility to do that. Each of the programs is going to ask for a different number of items to be uploaded, so it might be somewhere from like 1 to 20. It might be up to 40 items. Just read the application instructions carefully so that you understand what you'll be doing. You upload your portfolio into SlideRoom before you submit your online application to Parsons, because after you apply, you're going to be sent a confirmation code that you'll have to type into your online application so that we can match your application that you submitted to your portfolio account. Simple? Yep. For students applying to the data visualization program, they have the option of doing different types of submissions, one being a visual portfolio in either SlideRoom or a URL. The other would be a programming sample. So for students coming from a computer science background who would like to showcase their kind of coding abilities, they can upload information about their programming abilities, primarily their GitHub accounts, into the online application. If you're applying to strategic design and management, since this program is less of a design program and more of a business program that incorporates design thinking, instead of doing a visual portfolio, you will be writing a personal statement essay, and there are 5 specific questions that are bullet pointed in the online application instructions that you have to cohesively answer in a 2 to 4 page essay that you upload with the online application. And then again, I mentioned before, if you're applying to an MA program, you have the option of submitting an academic writing sample. Students applying to theories of urban practice have the choice of either a visual portfolio and slide room or an academic writing sample, or they can do both if they would like. And then again, data visualization applicants, in addition to the portfolio and programming sample, might also select an academic writing sample option. The deadlines for Parsons. Almost all of our programs enroll students in the fall term only. So your deadline to apply for most programs is going to be January 1st. That's the priority deadline for admission consideration and for scholarship selection. We will accept applications on a rolling basis after the 1st, but I'm just very honest with students, depending on how late you apply, we may have already extended all of our offers of admission, and so we may only have room for you potentially on a wait list if it's a very late application submitted. But the admissions office will let you know if programs are still accepting applications should you want to apply late. The only 2 programs at Parsons that allow for spring term applications are the Design Studies program and the History of Design and Curatorial Studies program. So if you were really interested in starting school as quickly as possible, that would mean your classes would start in late January. You'll want to apply by November 1st. Well, actually, what day is today? It's November 15th. So technically, you've missed the deadline, but guess what? We're still accepting applications for the spring, so you can still apply. Some very simple application tips for Parsons. We do every year participate in what's called the Graduate National Portfolio Days, and we also are a host of that activity or that event, which took place a few weeks ago in this building. So if you're thinking of applying next year and you'd like to have your portfolio looked at by a member of the graduate faculty before you submit it in Slide Room, you can come to these days, and our faculty are available to conduct short reviews and give you some tips and feedback before you apply. Unfortunately, they've all concluded for this year, so if you're thinking of applying by January 1, we can't facilitate a portfolio review for you now. But if you're looking at next year, they'll still be available then next year. If you're thinking of applying in the future and you'd want to build up a portfolio, we also have a very robust continuing education office, which offers classes that you can pay and register for in the fall, in the spring, and in the summer terms, so you may want to consider taking a continuing ed class. If after you leave today's Grad Expo, you have some very specific questions about the program you're interested in, all of our faculty contacts are on the program landing pages, so you can contact them directly. If you have admissions questions, you can contact Think Parsons Grad at newschool.edu, and we can help you with your application process. I've also put up here the email account for our associate degree programs at Parsons, because we sometimes have mature students looking to do an associate degree as well. And then last but not least, for all of our applications, once you submit your application, you're going to get basically an email that links you to your Admission Hub account. And in your hub, you'll be able to see in almost real time when the documents are received by the admissions office. So if you're wondering, gosh, did my old English professor ever submit that recommendation letter for me, you can log into your hub and see little check marks and dates next to when the items were received by our office. And if you notice that something hasn't been received yet, like a recommendation or maybe a GRE score or a TOEFL score, you'll want to reach out to the admissions office to try to figure out where the disconnect is or why we haven't received it, okay? So before I toss this presentation over to my colleagues in financial aid, we just wanted to remind you that my colleagues are going to go over kind of more in-depthly the FAFSA application process, which is the free application for federal student aid, and what those deadlines are to file for FAFSA consideration. But as far as departmental scholarships go, as Merida said, as long as you apply by the priority scholarship deadline, or the deadline for admission, It's an automatic process. So when the faculty read your application, they're going to first decide if they'd like to offer you admission to their program, and then they're also then going to decide whom they'd like to give a scholarship to. And if you're selected for a scholarship, it'll be quoted in your acceptance letter, and you'll have that information available to you so that you can make an informed decision about whether or not to enroll in our programs. Should you get accepted, we begin fall notification usually in early to mid-March, and then you're given 30 days to decide whether or not you'd like to enroll in the school by confirming your intention through submitting an enrollment deposit. You'll also want to be using these upcoming weeks to be looking for outside scholarships. So what we mean by that is, companies, corporations, governments often give aid or funding to students looking to study for graduate school. You just have to be proactive and look for them. So you'll want to start your research now and find those scholarship applications that you may wish to apply for so that, again, if accepted, you can have that funding applied to your graduate studies. We also just want to remind students that we often don't quote it in the acceptance letter, but if you're accepted to the new school's graduate programs, you can apply for graduate assistantship positions on campus. So this would include things like being a teaching assistant, a research assistant for a faculty member, or a graduate assistant, which for us means you take a job in one of the on-campus offices. Maybe you work in the admissions office and help us file paperwork or answer emails. These are hourly paid jobs that, again, you apply, you interview for, and it would be additional funding coming to you. And then, of course, internships, you could use the new school's career office to help you facilitate either a accredited or paid internship here in the city. Again, this is kind of just our last-minute tips about financing your education, but I feel like we've pretty much gone through everything at this point. Remember that deadlines matter. All of our application instructions are found on the admissions section of our website, and they're also PDF documents that you can print out and read through more carefully before you actually log in to begin your online application. One quick note, since we have so many international students in the live stream, just be aware that if you are accepted to a program, we will send you information about how to apply for your student visa, and at that point, you'll start to work with our Office of International Student Services. That's my last slide. It's time to toss this show over to the financial aid counselors, and they're going to come up and dazzle you with their knowledge. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Courtney. Once again, I'm Clint Osterholz. I am an assistant director of financial aid here at the new school, and my primary focus is loans, and I manage the loan process for both private and federal loans.
I am not that tall, Clint. Excuse me. Leslie King, again, Associate Director of Financial Aid. I've worked here in the industry for 10 years, and it's all been here at the new school. So I'd like to think that I know a thing or two about it. So I guess what we're going to start off with here today is where financing comes from. I guess that's a very important part of this piece when you're looking at applying to a grad school. So we essentially broke it down to two sections here. So from the school, as Merida and Courtney explained, the merit scholarships are determined based on the admissions process. So that's still some of my thunder. I don't have any power strings when it comes to that, but where we do come in handy when it comes to funding is you can come into our office and ask us tons of questions really about your financing options, and that's exactly what we're there for. Other options include stipends, which can be awarded by the school. That's going to vary per department, if in terms of how you apply or if you can apply if they're available. Assistantships, fellowships, on-campus student employment. So there are two parts to the on-campus student employment. There are federal work-study jobs, which typically are available only to students that are eligible to file a FAFSA for federal student aid. And then there are on-campus student employment, which are pretty much available to all students. And that takes us right into federal student aid and filing your FAFSA. There's going to be plenty more on that, but essentially, students that are looking to apply for federal student aid, the website is fafsa.gov. And from there, we're able to determine your eligibility for essentially federal student loans, as well as federal work study. And I think that's your bit now.
We also split it up so that not only are we speaking about what the school is primarily responsible for, but also the student part. Now, what this means only is that for the most part, you would be doing the footwork, but we are still here as a resource for this, especially when it comes to things like external scholarships, for example. We have some resources that we've listed on our website and also that we are familiar with. So if you'd like to come by and ask us about that or send us an email or call, we can help assist you in finding resources that exist both in person and online. Also, just in terms of being student initiated, we do have several payment plans available for students if they'd like to pay on a monthly basis. Also, we did split it up between assistantships, fellowships, and on-campus student employment and external jobs. We are aware, especially, some students do work full-time while they're in school or part-time while they're in school, and that can help defray costs quite a bit. So that is something that we do encourage people to consider if it's possible. The last part of this, and these are all sections that we'll get further into as we move down this, but PLUS loans actually is something else that students would initiate beyond just filling out their FAFSA that you can also qualify for in terms of being able to fund your education.
So essentially, my main goal as a financial aid counselor is to help you have access to all the opportunities for financing. And that way you're able to make an informed decision about the cost of attendance, about your ability and the affordability for attending. So the way this process, we kind of mapped out how it starts is the first thing that you do is you apply, of course, through admissions. And you learn of scholarships based upon admittance. Secondly, you would move on to, of course, the external scholarship process. Now, that process can be an arduous yet fruitful process that could require a lot of research. Typically, students do a lot of research online. There's plenty of information on our own website that could serve as resources. By no means is it an exhaustive list. The Department of Education also has a list as well of resources for external scholarships on their website, that's studentaid.gov. Then, of course, there's the FAFSA, which, again, that's filled out at fafsa.gov. Once a student is awarded, we will send out an award letter. And we encourage students to review the award letter. If you have any questions about the award letter, that's what we're there for. We're available via email, telephone, or in-person visits as well. And then discussing those options. So once you know what you've been awarded, your scholarship, your federal student loans, typically there's still quite possibly a gap between how much financial aid you've been awarded and what the actual costs are. And that's when I really get to do my job, when I'm able to come up with options for you to pursue to determine the feasibility for attending.
This actually is something that we cobbled together as a sort of timeline. It is a question that we've gotten frequently in the past and wanted to put together for students. This is roughly chronologically what you'll be doing in the next months in applying to the school. In addition to the priority deadlines that Merida and Courtney had noted, a lot of external scholarships have deadlines that are pretty early in the year. So we do encourage you to look now, even if you're not entirely sure about what you're going to be focusing on. This is still a good time to be looking for external scholarships and applying to them. This also does pretty well apply to international students. The only thing you're not going to do is fill out the FAFSA. But this is actually the same timeline that would apply to you. The one priority deadline we would like to stick in there for you to be aware of is we would encourage students to have your FAFSA completed by March 1st as our priority deadline for fall applicants.
And the earliest that you can apply or file the FAFSA each year is January 1 of each year for the upcoming academic year.
And how can you do that if you haven't filled your taxes yet? You can put in estimated figures. That's totally fine to do. You can just go in and make a correction to your FAFSA after you've completed it. But we do encourage people to get it in as quickly as possible just so that they have, we have a good idea of where you stand.
All right, so we've spoken on scholarships and how they're determined. The merit-based awards are determined by the admissions office upon admittance. They are generally renewable annually per program academic policy. External scholarships, the resource that I mentioned earlier was studentaid.gov. That's a website that is endorsed by the U.S. Department of Labor. Like I said, that process can be arduous, and you want to be careful about some sites that are possibly asking you to do things that aren't necessary for applying. So when in doubt, if you have questions, that's what we're here for.
We definitely have students email us pretty frequently, actually, checking to make sure if a scholarship is legitimate or if they feel that they basically just want our professional opinion on it, and you can always feel free to do that. The one that Leslie's speaking about from studentaid.gov is the scholarship search tool is run by the Department of Labor, so they actually have vetted those scholarships and they can vouch for them. But even then, if you run across one that maybe seems a little off, you can always please let us know.
Yes, we don't mind researching them on your behalf at all, or even calling and asking those hard questions on your behalf as well. Other places, other resources that you might want to consider for those at work, your human resources department, maybe there's some kind of tuition assistance program, as well as local community organizations, religious institutions, unions. There are lots of other resources out there for you to explore.
The next part to talk about, the FAFSA stands for the Federal Application, sorry, I always get that one wrong. The free application, because it's free, for federal student aid. And we do want to emphasize that it's free. There are, again, as Leslie was mentioning, when it comes to scholarships, there are sometimes people who are looking to take financial advantage of that. The FAFSA is free to fill out. It's also a fairly straightforward document to fill out if you're, especially if you're a grad student, because you'll be putting in your tax information. If you have any questions about it, though, the government does have an 800 number, and we also are fully available to assist with filling out the FAFSA. If you're ever stumped, just let us know instead. It should cost you no money to fill it out. It is available January 1st. I have never filled it out January 1st, but I've filled it out pretty close to that. Usually I'll check I do fill it out with estimated figures like I was mentioning before, which is fine to do. Just update it once you've actually filed your taxes with the correct information, or you can use this they've been using this for the past couple of years, the data retrieval tool, which we can get into if you ever contact us. Also, check your student aid report, because once you've filled out your FAFSA, you actually will get notification that you've successfully completed it, or not, actually. So they'll let you know if there's an issue with your FAFSA. The common ones that we see is maybe people put in the wrong tax information. You may also have a flag on your account where they checked your citizenship status with the Department of Homeland Security and it didn't pass. In cases like that, we generally just require some pretty basic documentation like a passport. So just check your student aid report, because that'll tell you if there's any issues that will hold up your financial aid application. And, oh yeah, I already said that one, it's free.
And we know as prospective graduate students, you may have some familiarity already with the FAFSA. It's important that we kind of harp on it, because there are enhancements every year that kind of make the process much more streamlined and easier. So if you haven't filled out one in a while, you'll certainly see the changes in the processing and how much smoother it is now.
Yeah, I mean, if you actually are just going from your undergraduate to your graduate, your PIN still works actually for filling out the FAFSA and signing it, so you can go straight on and fill it out as soon as possible. You may have to activate one if it's been a couple of years, but it's pretty straightforward. You just have to use a 4-digit PIN to sign your FAFSA now. When I was in school, I had to sign it and send it off to the Department of Education, and then they had to send something back, so it's a lot easier now. We also wanted to just touch very briefly on jobs. Careers.newschool.edu does contain all of the postings for TA, RA, and GA positions, and also if you do qualify for it, work-study positions are also listed there, but that's a good resource to look. And if there are any assistantships or fellowships available, you can check with your department.
So when you file the FAFSA, you are going to be automatically considered for your eligibility for the direct unsubsidized loan. These loans can be awarded in a maximum annual amount of $20,500, or up to your cost of attendance limit here at the university. It's important to know that the loans have fixed interest rates and very flexible repayment plans.
Well, and also important to note is that when we will put this together, we'll send you this information along with your merit scholarship if you qualify, and also the cost of attendance that Leslie's referring to will also be on your award letter, so you'll know what we've estimated it costs for a student to attend. And one big sticking point to point out is that we don't just factor in tuition, but we also factor in living expenses and other costs, so that is factored into the cost of attendance limit. Another option that is available if the unsubsidized loan does not meet your full needs is the Graduate Plus loan. It is also a federal loan that's available at a fixed interest rate. It actually is not a credit-based loan, but it's based on your credit history. There's a slight difference there. They don't actually look at your credit score. They only look to see if you have an adverse history of repayment. And I know that sounds a little vague, but most people, I mean, a high percentage of people do qualify for the Plus loan. So I just wanted to throw that out there as an option for people to be aware of as well. If you have any specific questions about it, of course, please feel free to reach out to us. They do let us know the full criteria, but I just thought it was important for people to be aware.
And you have to file the FAFSA to be considered for both loans. The difference between the two is simply by completing the FAFSA, you're automatically able to be considered for the direct unsubsidized loan. The Graduate Plus loan, you have to go through a credit process.
It's very fast. Usually you find out the same day that you've qualified or not.
All right, budgeting. This is very important because, as Clint mentioned, there are school-related expenses in addition to the cost of tuition. School-related expenses such as housing, books and supplies, transportation, food. Those are all considerations that it's important to sit down with us or call us and speak to us about what a budget would look like for you. And realistically, as a graduate student at a private university, it's important that we're able to help you map out exactly what costs are going to look like for you, which is going to directly affect, your need for funding and your financing options as well.
Oh, I thought you were going to do it. Okay.
I can steal it if you want.
No, I was going to do. So for private student loans, I do get requests every once in a while for graduate students. We actually recommend the Graduate Plus loan in lieu of a private student loan. Federal loans do have a fixed interest rate, as previously noted, and they have multiple repayment plans that offer the flexibility to switch between them annually, along with the possibility of loan forgiveness. So in certain plans, especially, I definitely notice with NSSR students, but also NSPE and Parsons students, that is an attractive option for them to once they do consolidate and graduate. Okay.
Sure. Okay. All right, appeals. This is an area where students are able to take a look at the amount of aid that they have and determine if there's still more that they may need. We encourage students to have those conversations with our office first so that we can advise you as best we can. The appeal policies vary per program, and they generally take place only at the time of admissions. So it's really important to have those conversations with us. My job is to make sure that any funding that you're eligible for, that's available to you, that we award it. And that's what we do. It's really that simple. And that tone comes directly from my boss, who is sitting over there. So anything that you're eligible for, we will not hesitate to award it to you. And outside of that, it's really a matter of us helping you break down a feasible plan for the cost of attendance for affording to attend with very specific financing options that work for each individual student. And every case is going to be a little different.
Well, and as noted, we do encourage people to come by and cobble out a funding plan that works for you. One thing to note also is that you will have access at a certain point after being admitted to My New School account, which is your own personal portal to the school. We do publish a lot of this information there as well, like your full cost of attendance. We do break it down item by item so you can see what we've estimated for you. So, but again, we do encourage people to reach out because it's important to discuss with us any concerns you may have, any figures that we've come up with that we can basically figure out what works for you. Also, one thing for people to be aware of is we do have the ability to address the temporary acute emergencies throughout the academic year. So if you are experiencing something like that, please notify us because we do have the ability to help with something like that. Oh, and let's go. And the last little thing here, if you have a smartphone, just take it out right now and take a picture of this because this is mostly our most important information. This is going to remind you later to fill out the FAFSA, check out our website if you need to. Studentaid.gov looks amazing. They redesigned it a couple years ago, and it's a fabulous website. It has tons of resources. In fact, if you come in to meet with me, we'll probably go to that website at least once to flip through and look at a couple things you may have questions about. And our contact information is super easy. We're just sfs@newschool.edu. Here's our phone number, and also, of course, we have drop-in traffic if you'd like to come by. We don't have an appointment system set up even, so you can just drop in to see one of us. We're at 72 Fifth Avenue on the 4th floor. Of course, you could just email us to find out what our location is if you don't know.
And the last thing I want to leave you all with is that when it comes to service and the level of customer service that you should expect from us, we strive to be very excellent at what we do. We understand that you all are why we are here. You know, my job, I can't do my job unless there are students available for me to assist. So if at any point you feel as though you're not getting the assistance that you need, if you feel like you're not getting the answers that you need, I am the manager at the Welcome Center at 72 Fifth Avenue. I sit on that floor. I don't see students as much as these guys, my team does, but I'm there for you if you feel like you're getting some kind of runaround or things are not clear, or if you just have some additional questions. I'm confident that my team is well-trained. They're all cross-trained, and I'm confident that they will do everything that they need to do to assist you. But I'm there as their backup.
That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, folks.
Oh, sorry.
We're giving the mics a second to warm up here. So we realize that you might have some questions. We also don't want to keep you here all day, so we have two of our amazing student workers that are going to be mic runners to answer a few in-audience questions as well as maybe a couple on the live stream. And then just as an FYI, both Merida, myself, and our colleagues in financial aid will be available after the presentation concludes so that you can come and ask us questions. Here, we'll also be upstairs in the mingle section, which is waiting for you as well, so you get a bite to eat before you head out and leave us today. But if there are questions in the audience, we were happy to take them. So is anyone brave enough to raise their hand? We've got mics that will come to you so you don't even have to leave your seat. I'm sure there's something we forgot in today's presentation. We found one.
Okay.
Oops,
Over there,
John,
right
right
there.
here. Yeah.
Hi.
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 In the event, say you're very proactive and you receive all of the funding that you may require, however, the awful event happens that you do not get accepted to Parsons. Is it possible to decline the aid that has been given to you, or has that ever happened? What is the process? What have you?
Well, so we actually typically don't generate a financial aid package for you unless you are admitted to the school. So you wouldn't be taking out loans if you've not been formally accepted to a program. So if you have questions after you get an admission decision letter, whether it be an admission offer or if you're waitlisted or perhaps declined admission, you can reach out to the admissions office and we can explain things to you in greater detail. I'd also like to just point out too, if you're not offered admission to a program and you're interested in a second program, we might be able to facilitate allowing you to submit a second application at that time. You can only have one active application at a given moment, but if you have a second choice program that you're interested in and they're still accepting applications, we might be able to allow you to apply. Okay, thank you. Let's see, are there any questions on this side? It seems like everyone kind of sat on one side of the room, so.
There's one all the way up there.
Okay, well, while
what
Tina's running up, let's get this other question here. Yeah, John?
Hello, hi. I have 2 questions. I'm an international student, and I'm applying for the PhD in public and urban policy.
Okay.
And I would like to know, first, do I need the IELTS? Because my undergraduate and graduate studies were international programs, which were in English. So would I need the IELTS to prove that I can speak English? And the second question is about the merit-based scholarships that the school gives. Is this purely academic merit, or is it also professional merit? So those are my
That's in
questions.
terms of answering your question, the PhD in public and urban policy, the merit scholarships that they offer will consider both your academics as well as, like I said earlier, those transferable skills, your research, your critical thinking. It is in terms of, they have a holistic review of the application as well as the determination of merit. All right, they do offer generally about 3 or 4 full fellowships, 100% with some stipend. Those are highly competitive. I forget you. Oh, in terms of your proof of English proficiency, you may, again, as an international student, you are required to provide proof of English proficiency unless you earned your degree in the United States. All right. Or you are a citizen of those countries that are listed that was listed on the slide and also on our application. If you've earned your degree, your undergrad and your master's at an English-speaking institution that is not in the United States, you'll have to speak to me. You can petition, and I will speak more. Come afterwards and meet with me, and I can tell you more about that. Okay? We should take one from the live stream. Oh, sorry. Tina
we've got
does
the
it.
mic up there, and then we're
okay.
going to toss to live stream. Yeah.
How does the federal loan or the student loan work with international students?
Federal loans are for U.S. citizens and eligible non-citizens. For international students, we actually have a listing on our website there are a few programs for international students to find resources in their own country. So we do have a listing of those on our website that you can look at. So you can apply there. If you do apply for a loan in the U.S., a private student loan, for example, you would need a U.S. co-signer or eligible non-citizen as the co-signer. But it is possible to do a student loan as an international student.
So we're going to toss to our live stream audience now. Dan, do we have a question from live stream?
There have been 2 questions so far about people who don't have a 4-year baccalaureate degree. There's one person who has a 3-year undergraduate course, but India does not offer a 4-year baccalaureate degree. There's also someone who has a 3-year diploma in visual communication and work experience.
Okay.
So is there any situation where a 4-year baccalaureate degree would not be necessary for a graduate program?
I think for students that are joining us on the live stream that are international and perhaps their country or universities in their country do 3-year bachelor's degrees or slightly different credentialing, I think they should contact the admissions office directly and submit their questions to determine if they're eligible to apply. We typically would ask them to send us like a copy of the transcript so that we could evaluate it to determine if they are eligible for master's level entry before they submit their application if there's questions. So yeah, they can easily contact us via the New School's admission office emails.
Yeah,
and we can
that's
help
not
them.
just for Parsons, it's New School for Social Research, as well as the programs in the New School for Public Engagement.
Okay. And I think, is there any other questions in the audience? I think everyone's we've got one more, and then we'll kind of break unless we have maybe a live stream question.
Sorry, I apologize. I was
No,
in a
it's
little
fine.
late. Can you tell me a little bit about the difference between receiving financial aid in the different programs and which ones receive maybe the most? I'm interested in creative writing, but I don't think that's a very, well-funded I'm not sure, you know.
Well, I think it's also important to distinguish federal financial aid from school-based merit scholarships. So when your application is reviewed, the faculty will determine if they're going to be selecting you for a merit-based scholarship, and your acceptance letter would include information about what type of scholarship you've been given, should you be selected for a scholarship from the school. And then federal aid, is different.
Yeah, federal aid, as we mentioned, with the unsubsidized loan is up to $20,500 or the cost of attendance limit. Plus, then there's the possibility of also applying or qualifying for a Graduate Plus loan as well. So those actually would qualify for any of the graduate programs that we offer. That's a master's or a PhD, and actually one of the graduate certificates too. So.
Right.
Okay. Lisa, do we have any live stream questions specific?
Dan. Dan?
Oh, so sorry. Oh, can we wait till the mic reaches you?
All right, sorry. I just curious about the funding in doctorate degrees.
So again, if you're applying to a doctoral program, your admission letter will include information about the type of funding that the faculty may have allocated for you. And so it may be a larger award, it may be a partial scholarship, so that information will be provided in your admission letter so that you can make an informed decision about whether or not to accept the offer of admission.
Let's take one question from the live stream and one last question from the audience. And then, like I say, Courtney, we'll still be here to answer your questions, so come down.
And we'll also go up. Yeah.
We'll also go up, so so no worries. So what, Dan?
What if people are dyslexic and don't score well on the English exam, but they speak well? Is there any way, but they can't improve it on the test? What options are available for this person?
I would encourage a student like that to reach out to the admission office to explain the situation, why there may be complications with a testing, score that we're seeing. And we'll probably have to work with that student individually.
So I'm assuming this is someone who's an international student who is thinking of the TOEFL or the one of the proof of English proficiency exams. So yes, talk to us. And if you are applying to the GREs, and it's also, you're a New School for Social Research student, and that's you have a disability, then certainly let us know, and that will be taken into consideration in reviewing your application. And one more question.
Thanks. I'm interested in some of the programs at Milano that are professional focused. Mm-hmm. Do you recommend in the statement of purpose that someone who's applying to something like the organizational change management program include specific faculty members that they'd be interested in working with? Is that something you're looking for in a statement of purpose for one of the less academic, for lack of a better word, programs?
Absolutely, you can. In terms of for any of the programs where you're writing a statement of purpose, and certainly for NSSR where there is an academic interest paper, it is helpful to have, that you communicate to the selection committee that you're aware of the faculty. Just be aware that sometimes faculty go on sabbatical, so it's not that you just specifically want to work with that one individual, but it does demonstrate your knowledge and that you've done research in terms of the backgrounds of faculty, who's in the department, who's in the program. So yes, absolutely. If you visited a class, if you've spoken to alumni, current students, certainly elaborate on how those connections and communications have taken place. All right. We're going to wrap up, but I promise we will stick around to answer your questions. For the folks in the live stream, you've got a lot of resources also. We are available through email. Contact us, email us. We'll be happy to respond to you. And for those of us here on campus, let's meet at the campus mingle that we've got going on, and we'll be available to answer your questions there. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Good Expo. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.